to my first YouTube cooking tutorial video. My name's Ellen and today I will be sharing with you my absolute favourite vegan chocolate cupcake recipe. Now this recipe is super easy to make. It only requires a few ingredients, which the majority of them I'm sure you already have at home. If not, I will provide some easy substitutes throughout the video for you. Now let me put on this funny little apron and let's get cooking. I like to have all my ingredients weighed out, sifted and ready to go before I start baking. This just means I'm not fumbling around trying to find ingredients and weigh them, and it just makes this whole process so much easier. So I start by mixing all my dry ingredients together, and this includes cocoa powder, flour, white sugar and brown sugar. And if you haven't already, I highly suggest you sift this into the bowl to get rid of any clumps, and give it a really good whisk to ensure the ingredients are mixed together thoroughly. The next step is to add the baking soda, or bicarb soda as it's also known, and mix that in really well, and then I move on to adding the liquid ingredients. For this recipe I'm adding canola oil. However, if you don't have that on hand, you can always substitute that for coconut oil, or even 1/3 cup of applesauce. Next up I'm adding a tablespoon of white vinegar, and this can be substituted for apple cider vinegar. In this recipe, I'm choosing to use soy milk. However, you can use any other plant-based milk alternative if you prefer. I find that almond milk also works really well in this recipe. And to finish off, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of applesauce and give the batter a really good mix. You do want it to be quite smooth and runny. Now to this recipe, I do love to add some vegan dark chocolate chips. And I do this by cutting up a block of Lindt dark chocolate. And I prefer this over buying choc chips from the shops because this means you get chocolate chips of all different sizes throughout the cupcakes, and they do tend to melt really nicely. And now moving on to the batter, so when pouring I do like to use a jug. I have seen people use an ice cream scoop for this. I just find that using a jug it's a little bit less messy, especially when you're dealing with such runny batter. And as you can see in this video, I'm still finding it a little bit tricky to pour because of the chocolate chips. Okay, so now that we've got everything ready to go, the batter might be a little bit clumpy when pouring it in, but that's because of the chocolate chips, so you can definitely not add those in if you prefer not to. The oven is set to 180 degrees. I'm using an oven thermometer because our oven is never 100% accurate. It tends to be off by 5 to 7 degrees. So if you have an oven thermometer, this will definitely come in handy because you want your cupcakes to be cooked perfectly. So time to pop them in. Cupcakes are now in the oven and ready to go. I've popped a timer on for 24 minutes. However, you can bake them for anywhere between 22 to 24 minutes depending on how hot your oven is. So make sure you keep an eye on them. So the cupcakes are now out of the oven after 24 minutes. I'm going to let them cool down for about 30 minutes, and in the meantime I'll start making the vegan buttercream frosting. For the frosting, make sure to leave both the butter and vegetable shortening out in room temperature prior to mixing, otherwise it would just be too hard and the consistency will be wrong. For the butter, I'm using Nuttelex buttery and Kofa vegetable shortening, which is essentially just coconut oil. I mix this all together and add a dash of vanilla essence, some cocoa powder and some melted dark chocolate as well. I also choose to add a little bit of soy milk and just keep pouring it as I go depending on the consistency, and I start sifting the icing sugar into the bowl. I don't add all of it at once as I like to add it bit by bit and then mix it and give it a try to see how sweet it is, because sometimes it can turn out to be way too sweet. But it just comes down to personal preference and what level of sweetness you prefer. Now for the best part of the baking process, and that is decorating. So I'm applying the buttercream frosting using a piping bag and a star-shaped nozzle. However, if you don't have this at home, a butter knife will suffice. This buttercream frosting is honestly so good. The cupcake itself simply acts as a vessel to transport the frosting to your mouth. I can guarantee once you try it, you're going to fall in love. And to finish everything off, I'm adding some edible gold shimmer, but that's just me being extra. You can decorate these however you like. Feel free to play around. That's honestly the best part about this baking process. Thank you everyone for watching my tutorial video on how to make vegan chocolate cupcakes. this is the end result. Of course, you can decorate it however you like. Sometimes I like to drizzle a bit of peanut butter on top. Today I added some edible gold sprinkles just for that extra effect. But you can play around, and you can even add in some Biscoff or peanut butter to the icing mixture itself. So let me know how you go.